Yeah, welcome back to the MC65 FM, the podcast where we explore Microsoft, AI, cloud, endpoint management, and technology shaping the future of enterprise IT. Today's guest has an extraordinary impact on Microsoft's modern workplace journey. Through the acquisition of FS Logix, he became the part of Microsoft and had shaped the what would become Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 platform, now serving organizations around the globe. Now he has changed to a new employee. He worked as nerd at Nerdio. Along the way, he contributed to innovations like Microsoft 365 Boot, Windows 365 Switch, and the Windows app Next Generation Windows AI Experience. Authored 5 books and listen as an investor on multiple patents covering cloud computing, AI, and visualization. Today, we are diving into the evolution of cloud PCs, the rising of agentic AI, and the future of Intune, endpoint management, Windows 365, Microsoft Copilot, and where the enterprise IT is heading over the next decade. Christian, welcome to the MC65M podcast.
Hi, Mirko. Thanks for having me. I love to be here. So thanks for the invite and looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, you have an extraordinary way. Can you tell a little bit how did you begin and how you end up at Nerdio?
Yeah, it's a good question. So first of all, I just like yourself, we were chatting before we started recording about community and Microsoft MVP and really help each other to learn and share knowledge and give each other opportunities to share things you learned. And that's really where my career started as well. So back in 2016, well, 2015, pretty much like 10, 11 years ago, I started to kind of embrace the community and share my knowledge and present at user groups and blog and all these things that's part of that great kind of community work you do next to your day job pretty much too. And after that I kind of got a lot of opportunities and at some point in 2016, 2017, I got an opportunity to join a company called FS Logix. And FS Logix is a profile management solution that now is part of Microsoft as the core technology that got acquired by Microsoft in 2018. And I was a consultant doing kind of the community work on the side. And as part of this community work, I created more opportunities, kind of a little bit, or let's say community opportunities created kind of new business opportunities for me to join FS Logix, and then I've got acquired. And then ever since I've been part of Microsoft for 8 years, AVD, Azure Virtual Desktop, WVD back in the days when it was still called like that. And then eventually in 2020, I moved from AVD to a project called Project Deschutes, which turned out to be Windows 365. So building an installed mode for 1.5 years, first in the Netherlands for 9 months. And then I moved with my family to Redmond. So I worked and lived there for 5 years. We just came back as that product went skyrocket with COVID. Remote working was more popular than ever before. I kind of worked on a couple kind of example scenarios and features you just called out. But at some point, I really saw kind of the partner landscape evolving, AI, and what you said, like M365, Copilot, like Agentic AI. So I saw an opportunity to go work for the largest partner of Windows Cloud, so Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop, which is Nerdio, to build a whole new platform from scratch and really enhance and embrace the Windows 365 and Intune story. And that's the platform that I'm currently building, and I'm spearheading that team with like roughly 20 people there, and it's really excited to see as the first start of that kind of set of experiences is coming to life. In H2 this calendar year, we will have more releases there to come. But it all starts from community and people and word back from the customer to a better product, because I honestly believe that a product is the representation of the people and the culture who build it. And if your product is great, then you most likely have a great team that works on it as well. And if your product lacks experiences or suffers, and sometimes it's something different. So So that's kind of my journey. So I've been in Microsoft for like 8 years. I said I've been shipping a lot of features, filed a lot of patents. I have a couple of those sitting here that I brought with me here in my small museum in my home office here, and yeah, we can talk a little bit about it. But like fast forward, like I think what is important to kind of realize here is that yeah, Windows and operating systems have been kind of the same for like 20, 30 years. And what you're seeing shifting right now is like in the age of AI, UI, and the way how we interact with computers is changing. And cloud PCs are more and more important because they run as a Windows PC in the cloud. And you can travel or connect to it everywhere you are without like the complexity of hardware burden or limitations of hardware these days, where RAM and other hardware is kind of increasing in terms of price points. So that's an exciting area we're in right now, and I guess we are gonna talk a little bit about that too, right, Mirko?
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, then that was my first question. I see, or how Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 complementary.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I guess that's probably the one most kind of reoccurring question that I'm getting still since the release of Windows 365 still till today. So Azure Virtual Desktop is a platform as a service solution. So PaaS in short. I think we're all familiar with PaaS and SaaS these days. So it's kind of I always compare it a little bit with the pizza kind of menu slash who bakes the pizza and who's serving the pizza completely out of the oven to you on a plate. So that's kind of the difference between Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. Azure Virtual Desktop, you have all the buttons and things you can do with a traditional VDI solution, but then with the control plane hosted as a PaaS offering. And then a Windows 365 is really the SaaS offering where the VM or the cloud PC and everything on the back, scalability, image management, all the things you normally have to do yourself in an IT department is managed for you as part of an SLA, which makes it like an like kind of a democratizing way of using VDI. So Mirko, you probably are not a VDI expert, as you're more like M365 and all these things, right? And um, like, imagine that you can all of a sudden use the VDI technology that was like very specialized knowledge for a small group of people that could do it. So now all of a sudden, everyone that has M365 and Intune knowledge, you can
Mm.
spin up a cloud PC, manage and maintain it the same way as a physical PC, and then make that work for your business for yeah, a very streamlined way and consolidated way with Defender and other services, Copilot, agents all coming together as one. And I think that's the real difference between the two. However, Azure Virtual Desktop can be, if you set up power scaling, auto scaling, can be a little cheaper in terms of the price, but then there's a certain overhead that you need to fulfill to manage and maintain that yourself as an IT department, as a partner, or a solution like Nerdio where you can help and do it all together for both products in one single pane of glass. But that's kind of the beauty of this ecosystem. You can pick and choose what fits best your needs and kind of have something that yeah, kind of sits in the direction you want to be today and tomorrow and decide where you want to be. And yeah, that's a little bit of a long answer on a short question, but I think yeah, PaaS and SaaS is probably the best differentiation of how you define your future and how you should decide which product fits best or combine them either way to make it fit and use AVD and Windows 365 together.
Yeah, you have the AVD for a long time. How has it evolved over from the early versions to now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I still remember back in 2016, I think it was. I was in Redmond in I think it was Studio G, one of the buildings in the Redmond on the Redmond campus, and we got a sneak peek into what was called Project RDMI, or so Remote Desktop kind of modern infrastructure. It was called. There was some other project names before that, but that was pretty much the well-known one. And that was the project name for modernizing RDS into a more kind of PaaS kind of fashion cloud. Like Azure was just coming up, and everyone in 2016 was looking at Azure ASM and then ARM, like the Ibiza portal. You probably remember that as well when the old school blue Azure
Mm.
portal was still there. And before that, we even had like another service called Azure Remote App. That one didn't ship well, but that was a large set of learning experiences that engineering gained to eventually build Azure Virtual Desktop or WVD, which was RDMI. And that evolved from being a very PowerShell heavy kind of setup, meaning a bunch of roles, PowerShell scripts, and hook up connections to Azure and then spins up something. And it was a Azure Marketplace kind of enrollment flow, but that only did like host pool creation, but didn't do the initial setup. So it was like, let's say, a very complex enrollment process at the time. And then yeah, we kind of entered the COVID area in like let's say 2019, and it's kind of if you look back, it's a very negative kind of time in our lives. Like it's like almost like 2 3 years swapped out of your life, and but on the positive side, from a business perspective or career perspective, I must say products for remote working were popular than ever before because yeah, you were sent back home and your computer was still at the office. So how are you connected to your corporate application? So all of a sudden, Azure Virtual Desktop was the most popular Azure service at Microsoft to yeah enable you for remote working. So at that time, I joined Microsoft, and yeah, you can imagine that people on the team and myself were like parachuted into companies to help onboarding them to Azure Virtual Desktop, and that happened in a like rapid paced manner that went from like let's say 100 customers using the service in 2017 ish to like thousands of customers in a year later when COVID happened. And now I cannot disclose the number, but it's like it's a very high number using the service. And then Windows 365 happened exactly at the time that more and more simplification was needed and SaaS to kind of build on top of that demand for more customers. So yeah, it has been an amazing journey to see, and demand and feedback from customers evolves the service to how good it is right now in Azure and in Intune.
Yeah. No, what will you say are the biggest technical challenges from AVD? So Microsoft say, okay, we built something new. We built Windows 365.
Yes, I think it really depends on what type of customer you are. So if you're a customer and you've been using virtualization for the last 10, 20 years, primarily Citrix or VMware or like Omnissa Horizon, how it's called right now, or maybe Amazon Workspaces, there are various of these virtualization services out there. And if you're used to that, then you have that knowledge and expertise of virtualization in your IT department, so you know kind of what to do and the incremental delta changes that you need to make in order to relearn a little bit the platform, but the basics of virtualization remain to be the same. Then Azure Virtual Desktop is a very logical pick for modernizing from on-premises to like let's say Azure. But we also see a lot of customers going straight from traditional virtualization to Windows 365 and then kind of work backwards to Azure Virtual Desktop. So they kind of use it in a hybrid way. So they shoot for Windows 365 to go straight for modernization to anything Intune, M365. And then if it doesn't work, like you have these PCs, you probably have been doing them as well. And then you pick a couple of these like applications that like stress test the rest of your environment. And if it goes through, then let's go production. And we still see a lot of customers struggling sometimes. But hey, I have a database or an intranet or some data sovereignty. Like things need to just run in my own data center close back to the machines or backend, or there's a server running there and we cannot move or migrate it. So and there's a solution for that now too called Azure Virtual Desktop Hybrid, so AVD Hybrid in short, and it allows you to have AVD as a control plane, so that PaaS offering, but still connect to your own on-prem data center if it runs like Nutanix or the Broadcom VMware ESX solution or Hyper-V. So there are new ways now to kind of mix and match AVD on-prem, AVD in the cloud or Windows
Gotcha.
365, and kind of overarch that all together as a whole is something I think is very important these days because imagine you're a customer and you're kind of on that journey and you have AI here, you have AVD here, Windows 365 there, and all these solutions coming together can be pretty complex to kind of navigate and know, hey, what's the best pick for my business? So combining them in a good way and making sure you make these decisions while not upfront kind of go in a direction you don't want to. So kind of pave the way towards the future without making decisions to go in a direction that I don't know. Let's say you decided to build a new house and you uh, set the foundation for your house, and you make a decision on the foundation that in 5 years or so you need to kind of completely rip out the foundation and rebuild your house. You don't want to do that. You want to kind of build the foundation in a way that the new parts of your house will be sustainable for the future. And I think that's where like solutions like a Nerdio kick in that really overlays that and do the things that you can kind of simplify as a solution for you to not make the decision faster, but it still hooks into the native solution. So you're not like, let's say, you're not making a decision like you open the door and you kind of go back out. So it's like easy to leverage and simplify, and as well to kind of in the future go completely native. You can do that too easily without removing your complete environment. And I think that's the key to success as well as where you want to be making your decisions on like that you bet on a future that is sustainable and guides you to. And I think that's important. The more complexity as well is what or kind of what's being added right now with AI. It's more and more important there to yeah kind of pave that way towards a unified story because AI is great and AI can do a lot of things. It can from summarizing, creating docs to automating your calendar to build a whole code base that normally takes months to build. But there are so many models and so many solutions out there that it kind of ask for the need of more governance and orchestration in that space too. So I feel and foresee that that's becoming more and more important. That all these solutions are kind of coming together as one, but like from different layers as well. So yeah, I'm curious what you think there, Mirko. What would you see in your space where you're active in?
Yeah, I see that virtualization becomes, yeah, in the last 20 years more and more important. As, yeah, I think when you're an admin, I think the most people, yeah, don't have anything to do with this topic normally. So yeah, that's I see it's really interesting. Um, what lessons from virtualization still apply today?
Well, I think the basics pretty much. So you still have a protocol, you still have a client, you still have latency and bandwidth and throughput and download and upload speed that you need to take care of. But the good thing is that the protocols have been commoditized pretty much. And so, like, let's say 20 years ago, there was always like you had the Citrix HDX, and then you had the VMware Blast protocols, and then this one's better than the other, and it was always that. Right, you probably remember that time. They even called it protocol wars or something at some time. That time is over. I think there might be still some slight differences, but nobody notices that anymore. It's like commodity. It's like streaming like from your best. I don't know. You have Amazon Prime, you have Netflix, you have all these streaming engines, and they all stream with a click of a button, and you expect it to work. That's kind of how protocols kind of work these days too.
Mm,
Like if you stream something, if you have like the speed, upload and download speed of what can stream a Netflix series, you can stream like virtualization these days. And that's the beauty of a SaaS solution, is that that whole kind of, let's say, TCP, UDP, stun, turn, that kind of optimizing the streaming engine, like that normally requires a lot of knowledge and, I don't know, net scaler or firewalling settings, and that's all gone. So I think that's one of the things that you need to kind of have a little bit of understanding of, like what it is, because it helps with the troubleshooting. If
Mm,
you're like having network issues, or let's say your, I don't know, your company decided to change from ISPs, or there's a different set of firewall rules coming true, or VPN tunneling is reconfigured, that you need to kind of have a little bit of knowledge there on how that routing and rewiring and that flow works. But for the rest, I think, yeah, clients are still the same, from the fact of you need a client in order to have the redirections and the streaming happening. And the Windows client, like the Windows app, for example, is still the best client out there with the most feature-rich capabilities, because, of course, Microsoft owns Windows, and that's the code base Microsoft owns. So that kind of is naturally always the best solution. But it doesn't mean that that the solution for Windows and Microsoft is the only one that works great. Like Mac and all these other platforms, like even Android, has a Windows app now that feels agnostically the same as the other platforms, and have Teams optimizations and folder redirection, disk redirection, clipboard redirection, conditional access, one way, two way. All these capabilities are now in there, cross plat per client, which originally was only like Windows or web. So I think a great enhancement that we have seen over time, um, when Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop came out there. Okay, Mirko, where are you? Mirko, are you back? He's
So
back. What happened?
yeah, I was kicked out. I don't know what's happened. Uh,
We were talking about streaming and internet
yeah,
up and download, and all of a
yeah.
sudden you
That is yeah, that's the fun part. Damn, I have to look if it's have records.
it's still recording here, so it's, I think we're good. I was just I just kept going, so you can just, after that, cut it out and stitch it.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah. Yeah, sorry.
I don't know,
Then
I'm
I
used to
don't
it,
know.
so
Yeah,
I can just go with the flow. No worries.
yeah. So, yeah, I think that it's really interesting. But you're an expert in Windows 365, and there are, I don't know, there are a lot of buzzwords. There are two. What is Windows 365 boot, and what is Windows 365 switch?
Yeah, it's a fun, fun story. Like, originally, Windows 365 boot. So there was a person, part of Microsoft, called Melissa Grant. She, I think she works for Amazon now. She was the marketing director for Windows 365, and We were brainstorming about a feature, like let's say, I think it was 3, 4 years ago, 4 years ago, I think, right now, to kind of solve the challenge of virtualization for end users where, like imagine you're like walking down to your office and you need to explain to just a normal user that isn't a technical savvy user to log onto a VDI environment. So that's very hard. Like it's almost requiring a PDF, a couple calls, an upset user because a couple things don't work, and then all of a sudden you're a couple hours later and the user is on their first day ramping up into the new system and is not satisfied. So we were like thinking, how can we streamline that from, hey, you have a PC and then you need to install a client, and then in the client you feel as a user, hey, you go from Windows to another Windows somewhere in the cloud. Like, how does that work? Like, that feels confusing. To kind of have a solution that when you naturally log into Windows locally, that you straight up boot into your cloud PC. So you're for the user experience have the feeling that you just log on straight to your cloud PC. And the user thinks that they go to the local PC, but they are actually going to the cloud PC. So that was really the story. Hey, this is something we should solve and should create a feature for. And in fact, there's a patent we created on that too, because the uniqueness we did there was it does it inside the Windows kind of shell. So inside the local kind of shell code. So it feels like very immersive to going to the cloud, and then all kind of the magic on the back with like the streaming and the starting and and kind of stitching it together as an experience is something we did as a team. And that was Windows 365 boot. Originally, it was called boot to cloud. So
Okay.
boot from booting Windows to straight to the cloud. And that was, in fact, as well the starting point of something that turned into Windows 365 Link. So Windows 365 Link is the new device that you can buy, where you can boot straight into a cloud PC from like a, let's say, a tin device that is very lightweight that allows you to stream to Windows 365. And I was privileged to be part of the core team that led and spearheaded that, up to even Satya Nadella to present to the board of directors, like such and all his directors as well. And um, boot, that's the story behind boot. But boot, and like we had like four pillars. We had the app, so the Windows 365 app. That's now the Windows app. Then we had Windows 365 boot and switch as well, and the other one was offline mode. Well, um, Switch is the feature that kind of sits in the middle. So you have boot, which goes straight from like the boot screen kind of into the cloud PC. Then you have switch, which is built for switching between your local device and your cloud PC and back via the task view of Windows 11. So task view is you probably have created like something the new or you kind of in your taskbar you have that the kind of two layered next to the surge where you
Yeah.
can like new
w-
desktops.
w- Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were like thinking about like what can we do there to create like virtual desktops in the cloud with that feature. So imagine you work on your local PC and you have an app that only works locally because you installed it locally and it has the need of a GPU that you have locally and like all kinds of reasons. But what if you have a cloud PC, if you're a contractor, like, or bring your own device and you want to switch seamlessly to the cloud
Oh,
and back? You cannot use boot for that because with boot, you have only one way. So there's no local device anymore, pretty
mm,
much.
yeah.
So with Switch, we kind of created that window of like boot is like going straight, but Switch is like created side by side feelings that your cloud
mm,
PC is here and your local PC is here, and you can kind of switch in between. You can do it with four fingers. You can do it with the Windows key, Control, and left and right, the arrow.
mm,
And you can as well do it straight into the GUI. So if you go to the task view, you saw or still see if you have the Windows app and you activate this, on the right side, you can see Windows 365 as your desktop there. And then you can switch, and then it feels like a booting experience that happens side by side with your local PC. So yeah, the story behind Switch was really we needed a similar kind of look and feel solution for what we built for boot, but then for bringing on device contractors to make that easier as well. So you can kind of serve the vast majority of experiences in a more seamless, streamlined way as we were building the, yeah, kind of the future of Windows there at Microsoft as well.
Mm, what would you say, what feature has the biggest business impact? What makes Windows 365 successful?
Well, I think the service as a whole made the biggest kind of impact. So the Intune kind of integrated experience, I think that was really a game changer. So when Windows 365 started, there was a decision to make, like, where should we build this? Should we should we kind of build our own management solution? Should we acquire a company that already does it? Or should we integrate in something that most customers are already familiar with? And the latter, that one is what we decided up doing, and that was Microsoft Intune. And the fun fact is that Intune, like Brad Anderson that built Intune back in the days who left Microsoft like 6 years ago. Um, he was asked by Rajesh Jha, which was the EVP of N365, to build a team to start building Windows 365. So the most logical decision there was to build it in that team of what he owns as products, and that was Microsoft Intune. And then as part of that um, creation, Ken Penn and Scott Manchester came together with Brent Anderson, and that formed the whole team. So I think going back to your question, what's the best and most impactful feature? I think that's the decision we made in the early stage to build Windows 365 embedded inside Microsoft Intune. Because imagine that, hey, Microsoft Intune, and now it's just a subset of provisioning in Cloud PC. And then all the policies and everything else is just merging together. So I think that's just a very powerful combo. I think the other parts of what has been very impactful is the decision to make from the Windows 365 app and the RDP or the remote desktop app. You probably know that, like, old school red icon kind of that on, to merge that together to the Windows app. And of course, there's a lot of debate online whether it should be called the Windows app, because every Windows app that runs on Windows is called the Windows app. So it could be very confusing sometimes for users. But if you think about the story and the vision of the Windows app connecting to Windows in the cloud, and it's the only Windows app you need in order to do so, it makes complete sense. So having that unified app now for AVD, Windows 365, RDP, and all kinds of other features and services merging into that, coming together, I think has been another very impactful one that has been creating a lot of satisfaction amongst users to really, yeah, streamline that end user experience, because nobody wants to have like separate clients for separate solutions they use, right? You don't want to confuse the user with, hey, you use this app, now all of a sudden you need to use this app for these apps. So it's very, yeah, very confusing to explain that. So having one app that you can just use and then streamline in the app where you go to is, of course, a much better experience.
Mm, yeah, yeah, I think so. That is really interesting. The another big topic where are you in? It's the AI Copilot, AI agent, AI topic. Um, how different is this agentic AI from the standard Copilots?
Yeah, I think the UI for AI is still an evolution. I think the UI for AI is no UI in my opinion. It's more a most minimal UI on the front end with the maximum outcome as kind of the back end, and the models working on what you want to achieve and push that back to you and create that what you want to do, whether it's code or a doc or a presentation or something else, or just a markdown file. But I think the evolution we have been going through is AI being an assistant on the side, like let's say Copilot or Claude, just open it up and type prompt something in or talk with it, and then it creates something, to a multi-agent like orchestrator that, hey, you want to do this and that simultaneously, and then build a whole code base or a set of capabilities, or um, respond to things in social media or your email, or categorize things in your email, completely automated. That part I think is happening right now, and yeah, time will tell how fast that is going to be embraced by customers, because you have now Agent 365 and new capabilities like Windows 365 for agents that kind of embraces that and builds kind of a new chapter in this age of AI, of how we do interaction with computers and orchestration and security. And I think the part that I think is important there is that we have the traditional software, the GUIs, the layers of how we interact with systems that haven't been changing for like 20, 30 years, to changing to completely augmented kind of automation. And and that could be MCP or MCP enabled AI first apps, or a computer using agent, or the AI, the model goes straight into the database, like we said, of course, too. So the GUI gets ripped out completely, and then the agent is kind of talking directly with the data. And I think that's pretty much right now with new models like Fable is the next big wave in terms of AI innovation, in my opinion. And time will tell how fast that is going. As the technology is there, the technology can do much more that currently the business processes that companies are doing. So I think the shift there is like, technology is here, businesses are here, and then of course you have folks like yourself being early innovators, like the frontier innovators that really go fast. But that's still like a handful, or let's say 10-20% of the big kind of IT industry. The rest is still using Copilot Assistant kind of UI components in their daily habits, and then moving to agents, but still like a human in the loop kind of agent, kind of human in control, agent is doing the work, but very much on an individual one-to-one basis. The next big wave is doing multi-agent kind of parallel kind of creation of agents, and then autonomous management and layers in there involved. And I think that's a very exciting space to be in, and that's where I feel that Intune is evolving to as well, and 365 too, with Agent 365.
Yeah, I've looked a little bit your new implement Nerdio, and there are some really interesting headlines. Uh, this one, it's from a PR. Nerdio brings AI to Microsoft Cloud Management, and the other, uh, Nerdio Manager for Enterprise. This is yeah, no, this was the wrong one. Nerdio enhanced Windows 365 management with AI. So, what does AI operated IT departments look like?
Yeah. Well, I think that question, the answer to that question is is kind of variable. I think from my perspective, what I foresee that's happening is that traditional UI will still be there for a while, for a couple of years. But what I expect is happening is that part of management will consolidate to a more unified UI. So imagine that you embrace Claude or you embrace Copilot, then most likely the Copilot UI is the one that you use the most on a daily basis to do your work. So what if you want to manage cloud PCs, physical PCs, AVD, M365, all these things? Do
Mm,
you then want to kind of step out of the Copilot UI you use for 80% of your daily habit kind of work and then go to a traditional one? I think the
mm,
answer is no. You want to kind of connect that all together in that single point of glass view, in that AI assistant layer. And that's what Nerdio, what we are building there, is really kind of streamlining that MCP enabled autonomous management layer, of hooking that in on whatever front end of UI you want to have, Claude, Anthropic, OpenAI, Copilot, it doesn't matter. But then on the back end, it automates that and streamlines that for you, so the complexity will be gone. Now, what I feel is, imagine you're like an IT manager or a decision maker, and you walk into the IT department and you are asking normally, hey, can somebody give me a report of the availability of the finance department last week, because the IT or the finance manager complained to IT saying a couple of the users couldn't log on because there was an error or something occurring. So, there's a very normal thing that happens sometimes, that they want to know what's going on. Imagine that IT manager just goes straight to Copilot and then asks, "Hey, can you create a report for this department for me by like including these time of working hours, and create a PDF for me?" And then it does it completely. And then what if it can also find the root cause and then send it straight to the support desk as well, or to the IT department, to give them a heads up if they couldn't see it, or haven't reached or received that message of the availability concerns or something like that. So I think that's the part of where this traditional system is evolving to. So GUI and reports and making things visible is still very important, but I think the UI will evolve more to personal UI that you want to see at that time. So you prompt, for example, can you create this dashboard? And then it creates a reporting dashboard with exactly the metrics you're looking for, that you can show and look into based on exact data coming from your environment. And then after that, you can maybe save that for later, or just destroys it and then you recreate it next time when you need it again. And that intuitive kind of adaptive kind of UI is something I foresee. And it's already happening right now, where partners and this ecosystem is evolving to. And you see it with Agent 365 a little bit happening right now. But I think the part that is missing there is the adaptive and legacy and backward compatibility part of Agent 365 towards other solutions that customers are using. I think Agent 365 is amazing for if you're completely in the native M365 SharePoint and all these set of features. But what if you still have an older server or an older legacy component running in your own data center, or like older software? And I think that's the part where I think the most attention is needed now for IT departments as well as consultants like MVPs, like really help there in that journey to AI. And that's not different from on-prem to cloud and like all these other transitions that happened in the last 20, 30 years. Like there's a previous point in time and there's a new point in time. How does this kind of intersect? That's where partners, consultants, all come into play. The part that I haven't seen happening yet in a very large scale is a, governance in terms of like training and help on how can we help a large enterprise to train to use AI the best way possible. And we used to have that with Office 365 and 365 in the field, like when we went from Exchange to Exchange Online, and you probably remember that time frame, BPOS to like Office 365. There were teams, there were businesses built around explaining how it works to users. They came into businesses, they trained like 3, 4 weeks, and then they went out and then was done. And I feel that right now the technology is going extremely fast, but the explanation of how you should use it is lacking. And we know this. We are like tech savvy. We are in IT, so we are like learning fast, and even we cannot keep up sometimes. So imagine like a normal user in a business that person's like primary focus isn't IT. Like they are struggling right now. So I feel that like what is a very large kind of set of an opportunity that needs to happen, that customers, companies need to jump into, and community is explaining the to B, A to B, C, or let's say chapter one, two, and three kind of what's in between and how can I modernize towards AI and how can I create a solution? And this is where partners kick in to overlay that all and kind of create a migration that doesn't feel like a migration. So you can kind of lift and shift between chapter one, two, and three, and maybe from chapter three back to two if it needs to, and then back from two to three. I think that's future software products where a big opportunity lays in terms of helping customers there.
So will you think the traditional admin role will change to a multi-agent manager?
I definitely think that admins will get more like digital admins added to their, like, let's say, roles and responsibilities. So imagine you have an agent that does like security policy management for you, but you're still in control of what that agent is doing. I think that's the important part. Like that you have agents for specific tasks and not like one agent that, I don't know, let's say have gut mode or local administrator permission, and then they can destroy everything. And also like from a harmful kind of like hacker kind of intruder perspective, you don't want to have that happening. So I think that security and governance layer of how to make sure that an agent that can do some of that more privileged kind of work is consolidated to only doing that part that you approve it to. I think that's the next set of what needs to happen in IT management with RBAC permissions that are going beyond on what we have been seeing in the past, where like agentic user, so the Entra agentic user, user agentic ID kind of approach. You probably have heard of that too. Is that you now in the new Agent 365 license, but as well in the agent licensing offering of Entra, you have now something called an agentic user or a digital worker concept where you can have somebody logging on behalf of you as the user, but it actually isn't you. So it's kind of a subset, like a sub user of you as a user, and then can have similar permissions as you have. But then you can delegate your task to that user, to that agent, agentic user. And I think that's the next wave of what we will see. Yeah, the software products and such need to kind of adapt to that. So, for example, the whole concept of logging on into Windows as an agentic user is kind of something that is out there now, but it hasn't really been used by many customers yet. So it's like that part of, hey, all these computer systems, all these ISVs, all these applications, all these things that have been built in the last 10, 15 years all have like support contracts of, hey, I support this operating system. I support 4 cores, 12 gigs of RAM, as deep like that stuff has all been built around one primary user per one operating system. And now we are moving out of that model to multiple user, or let's say different agentic users to an operating system, or different systems that do the same, but the person itself is an agentic kind of user, like a computer using agent model that comes in and does the work for you. So I think, just going back to your question, I feel the exciting part is that there's a lot of change, and it's faster, and it's innovative, and I think that's cool. But the part that I think is important there is that faster doesn't always mean better. So and faster could also mean it's more expensive. So where does the ROI? Can I can I take out, like, for example, you for half a day to work on something else that you normally do, and then do the ROI calculation there, and then that justifies the investment. I think that part sometimes is harder depending on which workload. But I think from an management layer, from an Intune, Windows 365, security, I think the exciting part there is that the repetitive tasks, the things you do that you know where to click on, but you just are the only person that can do it because you have these permissions to completely automate that with just a single click or an automated system, I think is the first like set of experiences you will see that AI will start doing on behalf of users, and then eventually move to a more organic kind of way of doing it. But yeah, the writes and RBAC and MCP enabled configuration flows are currently in development, and then customers will define the pace of how fast we can move in that direction.
Yeah, I think a little bit about deeper mind on Oven, but we had a lot of we have started with Clippy on Windows. He tried to help us. He's dead. I'm a little bit.
I have 1 year.
Yeah, yeah. Was such a cool guy. Then we have Cortana. It's not really helped. And now also I don't know on my PC it's also Windows. The Windows Copilot is also got done. That's no longer here. So, can AI troubleshoot Windows device autonomously, or is this something we have to still wait for?
No, I think AI is completely able to analyze data and find the patterns of what normally a human would take hours or maybe days to find. So the technology is there. I think the challenge there is that is the data currently connected to a system that can automate and resolve it? And I think that's the difference, and that needs to kind of get created and built out. And you already see it like support desks and um, there's already like an configuration and agent and MCP SDK in Windows that can go into some of the more kind of logging and telemetry as well. I think the next wave is here to connect it to like APIs and correlate from that data and then take action from that data as well. So I do think that troubleshooting is probably one of the best use cases for AI to jump in and help because yeah, it's like analyzing data and then based on that result, what comes out of that, it can take an action to resolve it. And normally, first it needs to happen a couple times. You learn from that, and then you manually create a script, and then have support teams doing that. I think where it's going to is that your client, where you log into, or your desktop, your Windows PC, has like an integrated experience that you can type in and say normally what you normally will say to a support team. I cannot like use my app. It gives me this warning. Uh, Put in a screenshot of the warning, and then AI will resolve it on the back end completely for you. And the part that currently is not there in Windows is that like M365 Copilot doesn't have that automatically kind of autonomous resolution part in there yet. And that's, I think, a little bit of a shadow AI, shadow IT kind of use case as well. Because as a IT professional, you don't want to have your users doing troubleshooting without you giving the consent for them to do so, or at least not without you knowing what's going on or what they troubleshoot. There needs to be logging and somewhat of visibility there. And I think that's the part that a lot of large companies are figuring out right now. And that's where digital employee experience, or DAX in short, becomes very important because DAX is kind of the overall employee experience. So imagine AI is doing everything for you, then the employee experience is still important. So how do you measure that? How do you connect the dots of all these systems together and still visualize it to see, are my users
Mm,
still satisfied with the experience they have, even though everything runs but AI or technology is great. I think the opinion of the user still remains to be important. And that's where, yeah, a digital employee experience, a DAX kind of as a new concept comes in. And I feel that that's for like the future, another angle of how systems and traditional concepts are changing in a more experience focused manner versus a more, hey, look at my fancy technology or solution that I use that did this, to more like from the outcome perspective, look at the user experience. And I think That's very important.
Mm, and I think, when we look a little bit into the admin groups and so on, we have admins talk about Entra, they talk about PureView, they talk about, yeah, also AI, they talk about, Defender, but it's yeah, some tools is a little bit missing, I think, Intune. It's still living.
Well, you have to imagine that Intune is out there for like roughly 10 years now. It started with Silverlight and then it evolved to the new Intune portal kind of
Yeah,
experience that still today is the portal experience. It used to be called Windows Intune as well. I don't know if you're familiar, but Windows Intune was the original day or the original name in the first
yeah.
couple kind of years. Um, and since then, like since COVID, Intune grow massively. Like hundreds of millions of endpoints are managed by Intune. There's still a big estate on SCCM, like large enterprises that still use that. And the more a product grows, the more, like certain features, bigger features are being done, but also how things are being prioritized are changing as well. So what you see a lot of security copilot and Intune agents being built right now. Recently, there were like some improvements on the speed of applying policies and apps, like with the sidecar management extension improvements called Project Fastlane. So there's definitely attention for features that are kind of asked for the core set of capabilities of Intune. But I'm hearing it sometimes more at there's more attention for AI and less on the core of Intune. If you ask for a feature that it's not being shipped, then I think that's well acknowledged. And I think the part of partner solutions is then important, that partner solutions help jumping in and creating solutions that can help customers filling in the blanks what Intune doesn't do. And that's where like a Nerdio does a lot of things on policy management, backup, sequencing in Intune, things like that have or should have been in Intune as well. And that's the beauty of this ecosystem as well, right? Like Microsoft tends to kind of normally do 70% of the core and leave the other 20, 30% open for partners to jump in and help customers and build on top of the native technology stack too. So um, I think, that's something to always be aware of on how you decide which direction you go. But luckily, there are more solutions in this ecosystem as well.
Yeah, we have, I think, two powerful tools is the right word. I don't know. We have PowerShell and Graph API, and yeah, we have this. I think. Oh yeah, another buzzword. Last time it's infrastructure as code. Did you think in Intune will also become more AI driven in the future?
Yeah, I do think so. I Of course, because Intune is so large and has many microservices on the back that are automated and globally distributed. Those all need to be evolved to like systems that can talk and automate with like a new front end. So imagine that within Microsoft, when a product is being built, like M365 works on Substrate and Intune works on Graph, and Intune is built on other backend services than, for example, other services that are on M365. So I think what needs to happen is that more of these systems need to kind of consolidate, and then an IT professional that currently use Intune as a console could perfectly fine in the future maybe use M365 Copilot or an embedded Copilot in an operating system or in a mobile app, and then do the management directly from there. And I think right now there's kind of a disconnect between those. And I think that needs to be solved. And right now, Security Copilot is the copilot for Tune. But based on experiences and talking with customers, is that they are not using Security Copilot the same as M365 Copilot. So you have like two Copilots. There are more Copilots, but I'd imagine for Intune you have two Copilots, one for M365 and one for Security Copilot, and they are not kind of blended together. So I feel that that's where I think the opportunity lays, is that those copilots need to blend together and you need to move more to one copilot experience for like IT professionals and knowledge workers. It doesn't matter, but based on your role or your agentic kind of workload, it evolved the way how it interacts with you. And yeah, as you know, like you can even use the UI of AI. I feel becomes relevant. Like it should be as minimalistic as it can be, and the outcome what you want to achieve is the most important thing. And that could be by talking with AI or typing with AI, but the UI is less relevant unless you need to show something or present something. But then you can create it directly out of it. So I think yeah, the systems and how it unifies needs to change, but I'm not sure how fast that will happen. But recently, the leader behind Intune got Purview as well as a team. So Purview and Intune are now two orgs in one. So that might change. Of course, Purview is not the whole security copilot stack, so that's much broader. But it's a starting point of maybe more and more unification that might happen in the future as part of Intune.
Did you think that the Graph API has a future, or will it all become MCP or get MCP in the future?
Well, I think MCPs could hook into Graph. So you build an MCP that kind of connects to the backend of Intune over Graph, and that could work out as well. So I do think there's more future for Graph than there
Mhm.
is for graphical user interfaces. But the time that evolution is gonna be the mandatory way of doing is really dependent on how fast the habits of users, IT professionals are gonna change. Meaning that going back to what I just said earlier, I think there needs to be more focus on how you can do your best job with AI in a different way to explain that and train people on that and how to do it or how to build it like themselves. Like that part is missing right now, and I think um, time will tell how fast that will evolve in a natural way. But if you explain like solution X as the better solution than solution like Y or A, where you currently are invested in, there needs to be a story in between how to get from A to B, right? Or from the solution one to solution two. And I feel that's important to tell that story, like explain to customers how they get to AI and how to evolve their processes as well as their users on how to interact with systems to AI. And it feels sometimes that we're jumping a couple of chapters, as I said before. And I think that going back to your graph question, graph and MCP is becoming more and more important. But the reality here is as well that some customers are still using the old school GUI, and they are not even looking at graph. They know what it is, but they are not using it. And that's a gap that needs to get solved. And community articles, podcasts will help there. But I think ultimately, um, Microsoft and partners need to jump in there because it's a massive opportunity to embrace AI in companies and explain to AI to the companies how to use AI the best and the most efficient way possible.
What will you think will endpoint management look in the future?
I honestly think, and it depends a little bit on how much legacy you have in your environment. But imagine you're on Entra, you're pretty much modern, you're like zero trust enabled, you have all the capabilities that currently are some of these buzzwords you just said, right? You're like, you're tech savvy, you're always on the latest and greatest, like you're in the Microsoft ecosystem. I think in like 2, 3 years from now, we will start to see more agents popping up that can do the management for you, still with knowledge and IT expertise needed into an IT department, but less in the sense of like sometimes when you work together in a team, there are people that you instruct to do things, or you create manuals, and then they go do these manuals for you. So you kind of instruct them, and they are more like the executors, kind of the things that you orchestrate as an, let's say, IT manager or like a director. I think the agents that are coming in the next 2 to 3 years for model management and Intune and other capabilities are centered around the things that are easily automatable. Like, imagine you create a manual and you feed it to an agent, and that agent goes go do the actions based on that manual for you, and automatically calls over Teams with end users and explain that manual and walks through the steps, and then knows based on the model how to interact with that user based on the knowledge they have. And I feel that that's already possible right now. So, for example, if you call Delta Airlines, Delta is, of course, more US based, but if you call Delta Airlines the help desk, you get an AI talking with you, and it feels very natural and can anticipate and go left and right in conversations versus if you didn't say yes or no, you fall in that blank gray area spot of like, computer says no, repeat your thing again, right? AI is gonna change is gonna change and is changing that in terms of smarter way of interacting just on a augmented neural network kind of manner. And I think that's the exciting part where troubleshooting, interacting, and automating and autonomous management really benefit from. And in the next coming years, I think you'll start seeing the first set of experiences coming to life. And whether that's partner first and then Microsoft later, or as kind of a combined kind of offering, time will tell. But I think that's the next big wave of endpoint management, autonomous management, more automated service, self-service now kind of capabilities that have been in the past available when customer asks or employee asks for this, and then there's a whole flow happening on the back, and then people get kind of approval messages of, hey, are you giving consent for this? Are you giving consent for that? I feel that's more and more going to happen, but then without the technology involved of building that yourself, it's just a prompt away, and then you can say, hey, um, configure this policy setting for this group. Make sure that the exact setting is being set, a kind of pressure test once or twice first before enrolling to the bigger kind of team. And then, yeah, our IT department is being used as well for checking things out. And then eventually it will get completely automated. Um, but I feel that knowledge of the systems are still important for the next 2, 3 to 5 years. The question, however, is how many of these very experienced IT department kind of IT administrators are needed? Do you need 10? Do you need 5? Do you need 3? Time will tell. But I do feel that as an IT professional, being very tech savvy and knowing how to build things is very important these days to, yeah, build the agents, build the automation that will get you to that next step of autonomous management.
I think Microsoft has, I say the software part, and also Microsoft now has, yeah, a little bit longer, but Microsoft Sphere. So where the hardware part lives. Did you think also we had this become a bigger part that we get secured? Yeah, the chip. Yeah, what is it? The chips? That's also growing and in the future, and it will be, I don't know, I think more simpler to get all yeah uh this to handle this from the hardware side.
I think what is important to recognize is that AI runs on GPUs, and GPUs are pretty expensive, especially now with the RAM being very scarce to get. It's going like through the roof pretty much, and it's harder to get GPUs because all the big cloud vendors need the GPUs in order to build and scale the systems. And um, what you see there is then the price of AI is going up as well because of that. And then all of a sudden you're like looking back to, hey, um, my employee cost X per hour, my tokens cost X per how many tokens per workload per parameter that the model supports. um, Kind of what's the ROI of AI, and how do I use AI to replace something versus how is a human still cheaper? So I think the solution there, or at least one of the solutions there, is Edge AI. So you
Mm.
have all these devices out there that are Copilot Plus PCs. They have an MPU in there, and they can run like so many tops of like SLM model kind of interaction. I feel that in the future, in the next, let's say, year or so, more and more devices, like let's say Copilot Plus PCs from 2 years ago, they
Mm.
will move to Copilot Plus device, meaning that the MPU becomes so powerful that it can run an LLM that you now need a Claude or Copilot for to run. And then you spin up there are the cloud service GPUs, and that costs more money because they control the price of that. So what if you buy a device for like 1,000 or 1,500 bucks or euros, and then it has an MPU in there that can run LLMs, and then you can just fire it off locally. And I think that's the way to kind of control the cost a little bit as well, and then, like, slowly when the systems like, there are new chips being built right now, built for AI. There are, like, companies, like, that are currently, uh, building new chips for AI, and that will take time, but once they are out, the price of chips will go down, and then the price of software will go down as well. So there might be an interim step there where edge AI becomes more and more important. So, for example, there are examples of where you can build an ecosystem of multiple MPUs or GPUs that run locally to offload things that you do in the cloud. So, for example, you interact with Copilot, you ask something, and then you do it from a machine that has a local GPU that can offload that from that client to your local device, and then it still feels it runs in the cloud, but it actually is rendered on the local device. I feel that something like that is happening right now, but the software doesn't kind of embrace that yet, and I feel that that might be a next step of where AI becomes a little bit more affordable if you, I don't know, are a developer and need to use the model all the time versus, yeah, you just use it a couple times a day for creating a doc as a knowledge user.
Yeah, and now we're waiting all for the real working quantum CPUs.
Well,
Yeah.
quantum is one, but I feel that quantum is 2 to 3 years out still. I do feel there might be an interim step that will happen first. That will be allowing you to either run models on a CPU or on a GPU that is more like a GPU that is in a laptop or like a desktop PC. Like you can have a gaming PC and that like GPU in there could be perfectly fine to run models on, right? So imagine you have a laptop and you have an iGPU in there that does the display rendering. Like many laptops have iGPUs now. What if you can run some part of a model on an iGPU and then it offloads part of it from the cloud to avoid that you spend or your tokens go through the roof? I think that are parts of efficiency layers that I feel that are happening. The question, however, is the model as good on that chip and as it is on that back end coming from the cloud? And I think that's the technical challenge part that is important to get resolved. To like, when you use this device with this hardware, can it offload? Because hardware and drivers and all these things are different, right? So yeah.
Yeah, but the I see the new 3 terabyte systems, LMMs running on the NVIDIA GPUs. It's possible, but yeah.
Yep, you have the new RTX. I think they are called RTX, the new Surface laptops, the NVIDIA CPU, and they have a CPU slash MPU GPU in there that can run, which is that like highly amount of token parameter LLM 7D models or higher even, completely on a local device, and that's I think that's a big change. And you've seen probably Jensen on the NVIDIA keynote, like I think it was 4 weeks ago, uh, of GTX, or no, yeah, I think it's called GTX. That's the NVIDIA conference every year in spring. He said that systems, everything is going to change while using this chip, meaning that the operating system becomes more, let's say the whole UI of Windows disappears and the whole way of how Windows interacts with your files and software remains. So then there still needs to be a core layer of Windows involved. But then on top of that, like the front end can change. So meaning that it could all of a sudden be that your operating system feels like a more like fluent mobile operating system that you have on your phone, but then on your desktop. And I feel that that's an area that we haven't seen much happening. But Google, for example, created the Aluminium operating system, OS that runs on Android that feels like a Chrome OS, but then completely embedded into Gemini. And I think that's and again, right, customers define how fast we move in that direction. But I feel it's an example of a path that they are creating for customers to go after when AI is the primary UI of what you use on a daily basis. So it's an exciting space to be in, especially in endpoint management and end user computing. I feel that the way how we manage, as well as the end user focused systems, experiences, clients are going to change. And the people that have been doing workplace management in companies, they're still important to facilitate that transition. So be ready for that wave to come. It's coming.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I hope that's a little bit. Yeah, Nvidia get a little bit more competitors, real competitors. Yeah, okay, that's Google with Tensor, and yeah, they have also something, and Intel also. But yeah, uh, let's have a look in the future. So it's the price go. I hope it get down, especially for me as gamer. uh, yeah. So let's just jump in the rapid fire round. It's I say a short question and you give a short answer. So, um, Windows 365 or Virtual Desktop,
Windows 365
Intune or Configuration Manager,
into it.
Copilot or Agents,
Agents.
Windows 11 or Windows 365.
Well, that's a hard one because it uses both. So I would go Windows 365, as I believe the OSs will change in the future.
PowerShell or Graph API,
I'm more a graph person.
Teams or Outlook,
So what was the first? Outlook
Uh,
or
Teams
Teams
or Outlook,
or Teams, definitely Teams.
Bitterball or Frikandel.
I will go for fricandel special.
What's the biggest AI myth you will bust?
Again, what's the biggest AI?
AI myth you will bust.
The the, the myth, you mean? Like what?
Like the
Um, well, um, I think the biggest myth around AI right now is that AI can create like full blown production code and for large enterprises from scratch. There's still human interaction and developer and expertise needed in order to ship quality and code to production. So I think the myth that is out there is that um, yeah, you can prompt something today and tomorrow you can ship it to 10 million users and it can be better and have a better quality, and that's just not true. It still involves a lot of debugging, quality checks, and things like that. But it's getting there. It's like
Mm.
180-degree change from a year ago. So let's say in a year, maybe we can retry, and maybe it's actually possible to do it completely end to end.
Yeah, then we have to do a new podcast record.
Wow.
Uh, what's the one habit that make you successful?
Um, Probably discipline. Don't give up. Be disciplined. Of like sometimes when you have something in your brain or you have an idea or you're doing something, it's so easy to get distracted by the daily habits and the daily routine, and then all of a sudden a couple weeks later you're like, oh, I was busy so I didn't spend time on that. I think my habit or the things that I think I kind of engraved in my way of working is that everything I say, I do. So do what you say what you do kind of phrase as well. I don't know if that's in German as well. Like what you say, you kind of you kind of um kind of sign up yourself to. And I think I've been doing that like and that could be a or a risk as well, right? Because yeah, if you do that a lot of times and, and you don't finish in a fast pace and you stack up the amount of work and work and work and then you end up working a lot. So that's where I think AI really helps me these days. So I have a lot of things that I have in my brain that I now can give a spot, and then the other risk is that the people or the systems and the company and the people around you are not there yet as how fast you can go. So then you have a lot of things that you work on, but then the people to catch up on or create something from that go in a slower pace. And that's where I hope agents will start helping me more and more to execute some of that work as well in the future.
Yeah. And when you get all the resources and money you need, what feature will you develop?
Um, I think honestly, the things that I would be most proud of if we can pull this off in a good way in the next year or so is a revamp of, let's say, endpoint management, but then completely embraced and infused with AI, but then still in the most secure way possible and adaptive way possible where you want to be. Meaning that I don't know, you want to go AVD, you want to go Windows 365, you want to go Intune, you want to go SCCM, you want to go other solution. Like doesn't matter. Like there's a machine, a system, a machine created that can connect the dots all together. I think that's if we can pull that off in a seamless way. Like I sometimes use the analogy of becoming the Switzerland of multi-cloud and AI. Uh, and the people in Europe know what that means. Like being kind of universal on the decisions, especially right now in the in the world and the difference in terms of how people make their investments on cloud, whether the cloud providers in Europe or in the US, there's like more focused around data sovereignty. Imagine there's a solution that can connect the dots that you can make the decision based on where you want to be at that time. But if that changes in 6 months, that can also change back without the complexity involved. I think that's where I would be investing my money in and my team and my resources if I would build something.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So then my closing question is, if listeners remember only one thing from today, what should it be?
So the question is, if there's one thing from today you will want to share again, what would that be? Is that what you said?
Yeah, what is the one thing they should now, yeah,
Okay.
have
Well,
in
I
their
agree
brain?
on that is get your hands dirty with AI. I think the most important thing around AI is start to do and understand it by doing. Like the brain, and this is just synthetic or like let's say based on research and based on synthetic scientific, I must say, research has been proving out that the brain works better if you actually do the things versus only doing the theory, the reading, the yeah, the stuff. Like, hey, I don't know, if you're if you let's say read a manual without actually doing it, you forget it. Like after a week, maybe you don't even know what step two was. But if you perform the manual, you probably still know 50, 60, 70% of the manual a couple
Sure.
months later because you performed the steps. You kind of created that memory in your brain, that wiring of the things you did to the theory. So my advice for everyone would be to get your hands dirty with AI, try it out, see if it works for you, and if not, try something different. And that's the way to get there. And the systems have become easier and easier to use. So yeah, the way to ramp up, like for example, Claude, Anthropic, it's
Mm,
been amazing how fast and easy that has been evolved to. You install it, you can create skill sets and agents that are kind of directly attached to you. What you can do as well is, as a company, you have an enterprise subscription, and then you can pre-train the model for everyone in your business, meaning that if you, Mirko, will say, hey, create this keynote deck for me based on, I don't know, Windows 365 and endpoint management, that automatically pulls like data from what the company has trained the model on, as well as the data sources that it's connected to, as well as the template and the branding you should use as part of creation of the deck. Like imagine that normally you had to go to the marketing team, pull the latest deck, review it, all these things to just be a prompt and then it's there. Like just examples of how fast things evolve. Like, I don't know, in 3 months from now, things could be even more streamlined. So yeah, try it out. Don't be that last person in line that and choose to pick up AI because yeah, of course you don't want to be the
mm,
last. You want to be efficient, but you also want to be yeah, prepared for what's next. And
mm,
the moment that regardless of what you do, whether you're in IT, whether
mm,
you're doing something else but use AI as part of that day job, there will be a moment in time that there will be change happening, whether it's new systems being used, new opportunities, you get a different role, things like that. If you prepare yourself always for the future, you will be always one step ahead for the others or in front of the others that don't do that or take another more cautious, less proactive approach there. So I think career wise, it's a great way to invest in AI these days as well.
Yeah, so Christian, thank you so much for joining me on the M65M podcast. Yeah, I'm sorry for the technical issues I had today. It was, yeah, fascinating to hear the story behind Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. But even more exciting was your vision for what's next. Yeah, we explored how AI is set for redefined IT management, why autonomous systems will transform and operations, and how Microsoft built the next generation of intelligent workplace technologies. Yeah, so thank you for staying here. And if you joined this episode, be sure to subscribe the podcast, and you find all links from Christian's blogs, sessions, books, and recommendation sources in the show notes. So thank you for listening, and thank you for staying here with me, Christian.
Thanks, Mirko, for having me.
Bye.
Bye bye.